Hey y'all, I'm back with another video, and this one is in regards to tips and golden nuggets I want to share with you all so that you can write a strong interest statement to get into the dental school that your heart's desire. Behind me are some notes that I wrote out, and I divided it into 4 categories. So let's begin as I walk you through everything. Category number 1, some of the biggest mistakes. Right out the gate, the biggest mistakes that people make is not knowing your why. At this stage of the game, if you cannot articulate to the admissions committee about why you want to be a dentist and why you are applying to their school, it might raise a red flag. I'm not saying that you're going to get automatically disqualified from the application process, but you kind of increase those chances. So please know your why. Secondly, a generic reasoning. Oh, okay, well, I want to be a dentist because I know this school that you are applying to can give me the education to help people. There's no sustenance there, people. So I love analogies, right? I love MasterChef. So that's just like me. Okay, Chef Gordon Ramsay is just like, I want you to create me your signature dish, Wesh, that highlights you on a plate. And I'm like, okay, Chef Gordon Ramsay. And so I give him some chicken, and he's like, what is this? He's like, it's dry. Where's the salt? Where's the pepper? There's no seasoning. So please don't give a generic reason. You need to, once again, going back to knowing your why as to being able to provide depth to your reason as to why you are wanting to go to that particular dental school, as well as why you want to be a dentist. And there are a number of different reasons why you are applying to that school and why people in general are studying to be a dentist. Resume regurgitation. Please don't verbatimly take what you put on your resume and just inserting it in the essay. I know this is common sense, but you'll be surprised where some people is just like, yes, I was the president of my organization, or yes, I just shadowed at X, Y, and Z dental office. It's okay if you want to pull from experiences and put them in your essay. That's okay. But once again, you need to elaborate and don't be vague and generic. Like, come on. Yes, I did shadow Dr. So and so, who is an oral surgeon, and I was really in awe as to what oral surgeons have to do to extract teeth properly. I'm just making that up off the top of my head, but you get the point I'm trying to make. Please be careful of grammatical and spelling errors. That I'm not sitting in the rooms for the admissions committee, but I've heard enough conversations to know that at this stage of the game, if you have a lot of grammatical errors, spelling, run-on sentences, it just shows the lack thereof of professionalism on your part. At this stage of the game, med, optometry, vet, dental, nursing, physical therapy, these are all professional schools, and you need to carry yourself in a professional manner. And by you having all those grammatical errors in your essay, it gives the impression that you aren't being mindful, or better yet, being meticulous with editing this essay. I mean, literally, you are entering a profession where you have to be meticulous with how far or how wide you drill. And if you can't even catch these errors, that's a red flag. Now, the anatomy of the essay. Okay, we need a good origin story, proof, and a future vision for yourself. So, once again, another analogy that I would like to give is one of my favorite villains is Magneto from the X-Men. Ironically, I'm wearing a Marvel shirt. Okay, I like Magneto. Before I found or discovered his origin story, I'm like, why is this man so evil? Why is he so crazy? Why is he so gun ho about doing harm onto human beings? I don't understand. And so when I did my research, I'm like, oh, this man went through something traumatic. He literally saw his family go into the Auschwitz camps during, oh gosh, my mind is drawing a blank, during the Holocaust. There we go. Lord Jesus. This particular character saw his family go into those camps and died in front of him. And he was, by the grace of God, able to survive the Holocaust. that right there sets up, okay, this is why this man is evil. This is why this particular comic book character wants to do harm unto human beings. Got it. Now that we have that origin story, where was the proof? Where was that at? Oh, okay, he was kidnapping political activists or political figures, holding them against their will, threatened to kill them. And then it took the X-Men, Wolverine and the other X-Men members, to always halt Magneto's plans. And sometimes they succeeded, sometimes they don't. And then the future that Magneto had was that the mutants will be in charge of the world. So that's just the analogy that I gave. But what is your origin story? What is your hometown? What is your age? What was your social economic background, family? What was your rearing like? And more importantly, where was that aha moment? Okay, I knew I wanted to be a dentist when my mother lost her dental insurance, or I knew I wanted to be a dentist where one of my siblings went into the dental office and the dentist didn't know what they was doing and they suffered a medical emergency. Or I knew I wanted to be a dentist because, I don't know, maybe your grandparent, they never went to the dental office because they heard horror stories from their neighbor or other family members about going to the dentist, and she just did some home remedies that really didn't do a good job at maintaining her oral condition. And you said, no, I want to get educated so that I can understand what all goes on with the oral cavity and alleviate my grandparents' concerns along with senior citizens' concerns about dentistry. I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is we need your origin story. Okay. And then from there, what did you do? We need the proof. Where did you shadow? Where did you volunteer and or work? What did you do to immerse yourself in the field of dentistry? That is what the admissions committee is wanting to know. And then as a whole, how can this school, they're really interested, what is it, I shouldn't be saying that because it's a vague word, but what makes that school so unique that you took the time to apply to them, and what is it about their school that can help you get to wherever you're trying to go in the future once you become a dentist? They are really going to be interested in that. Category 3, my approach. So I had 5 paragraphs. I had an intro. I was like, okay, this is what led me into dentistry, and this is what I hope to achieve in life. That's essentially what I put in my intro. I'm just paraphrasing. Then in the first body paragraph, I articulated more, saying, hey, these are the schools that I attended. This was my major. This is the reason why I chose my major. Then in the third paragraph, I was like, okay, this is what I did to get involved in the dental community. I was I was a volunteer at Georgia Mission of Mercy. I volunteered at Bimazell Dental Clinic. I volunteered at Greater Memorial Oral Surgery Department. I really was able to articulate what all I was doing. Now, this is the kicker. In paragraph 4, this is where you articulate the trials and tribulations you may have experienced. So if you are somebody who had a 3.5 GPA and then you drop down to a 3.1 GPA, clearly these schools have your transcripts. They're going to say, whoa, what the heck happened? We all know life can throw us curveballs. Maybe you went through a fire. Maybe you were surviving domestic violence. Maybe a natural disaster happened. Maybe somebody in your family passed due to an illness. But this is where you articulate what happened, okay? But more importantly, the second half of that coin, you need to articulate what did you learn from it and how did you grow. So for me, I was a reapplicant multiple times. It took me 3 times to get in this school, but I got up in this piece. So the third and final time when I applied, I really articulated what I did to become more of a competitive applicant and what did I learn. So I'll use myself for an example. When I was at UGA, I went through a lot, but long story short, I battled depression and my grades suffered. Okay, so right out the gate, it was my GPA. I took the DAT twice and my scores, the first time my scores was trash. Whew, yeah, them scores was rough. The second time I increased in across the board, my stats were like average. It was like 16, 17s. It was average. Then the third time, flying colors. So, okay, this is what I wrote. I said, in undergrad, I battled depression and it reflected in my grades, and I was able to obtain a low GPA, which was non competitive. However, what I learned in undergrad was that I need to seek help sooner rather than later. I invested in a spiritual life coach. I began going to office hours even more. I built a community amongst my friends, and I therefore was able to shine once I went into the master's program at Georgia State. For as the DAT, I had to really sit down and understand how to study for the DAT. I did more practice tests. I invested in better DAT prep materials. That is where I articulated all of that in my essay. And then again, the cherry on top, I relayed to the admissions community what I learned and how I grew. And they had receipts because they had my transcript, so they knew I wasn't bluffing. I put that all into paragraph 4. And then as a whole, you have your conclusion. That's where you summarize everything. And again, you articulate that despite the trials and tribulations you may have experienced in life, I remain disciplined and focused, and I know I'm ready to attend X, Y, Z dental school. And I know you all can help me once again become an adroit dentist serving the underserved in a rural population or an X, Y, and Z part of the world or America. That's how we do that. Now, tactical tips. Read it out loud. Sometimes when we write things down, it sounds good on paper and it sounds good in our head, but when we read it out loud, our brain is like, okay, whoa, wait a minute. That sounds kind of weird. We kind of need to restructure this sentence or replace this adjective with another one. Secondly, proofread it. As I mentioned at the beginning, grammatical spelling errors, run on sentences, we don't want that. How do we eliminate that? We proofread it. There should be, if you're currently in undergrad, there should be 1, the writing center, 2, the writing center or the career services center, in which you can go there. Or for me, what I did was I exhausted all my resources. I hit up my English 1101/1102 professor. That was one source. I went to the writing center on campus. That's another source. I went to career services. That's another source. I went to my sister because she's a strong writer. And I remember when she was trying to study abroad in Australia during her undergrad years at Georgia Tech, she managed to receive a full ride scholarship to study abroad in Australia. And I could have swore that I could have swore it was over 10 grand. And I was like, how was you able to study abroad in Australia essentially for free? Because she was just so happy and elated. And she told me, she was like, this is the format you follow. This is how you communicate. This is what they want to hear. And she shared her golden gems and nuggets with me. And I was like, okay, cool. I took it and ran with it. And she reviewed my essay, and she was a piece of the puzzle to help me get inside dental school. But also, last but not least, I had to double back in life and go back to high school and hit up my English teacher, both sophomore and senior year, when I was at Druid Hills High School. Shout out to Alyssa Montooth in Decatur, Georgia. I liked her a lot because she used to work for the company, I think the SAT board. Basically, she wrote essays and graded the essays for the SATs. And she created questions for the English portion of the SATs. So she already has the skill set and foresight of knowing how an essay should flow, how it should read, what one's voice should sound like when applying to a professional school. Because just like you all have heard, dental school is cutthroat, it's competitive. So for me, my anxiety went up. I was like you all at one point. I was a pre-dent. My anxiety went up, and I said, nah, I'm throwing everything at the kitchen sink for this essay so that Wesley Clark can stand out in the crowd and at least be granted an interview. So that's what I did. The proofreading is very important. Next point, don't oversaturate your essay trying to sound, just use it. Please don't oversaturate your essay trying to sound like just overly smart. We have a joke about family. Essentially, you just trying to use SAT words. Just be conversational. We ain't got time to be using big words and stuff. Like the missions committee ain't trying to hear that. They just want to know, is this person approachable? Is this, better yet, is this somebody that we can accept in that they will fit inside their class and hang out with their classmates after surviving a operative practical, a biochemistry exam? Or are you going to be kind of arrogant in your demeanor to where it's like, you don't know if he, she, and or they would survive and fit inside of this school? So if you are going to use fancy words, or the running joke in my family is SAT words, just use your best judgment and use it within reason. Last but not least, please take into account that I believe there's roughly 4,500 characters, and that does include commas, punctuation, space, special characteristics, all that jazz. What I did was, when I was typing up my essay, I had the Microsoft Word document open and I was typing up my essay. Oh, better yet, when I was at Georgia State. Okay. When I was doing my master's program at Georgia State and I was getting my essay reviewed, I would do the online tutoring with the tutor. And literally, I would send the essay to the gentleman and he would make all the edits and he would send it back to me. He's like, okay, where are we at right now? I'm like, oh, hey, we on that cusp. We're at 4,495. We was able to get it down to 4,300 words. I'm not about to play Russian roulette. I didn't want to play Russian roulette and say, oh, okay, well, that 4,495 words, it's good. And then I upload it into the dental school application, and then a sentence or two is cut off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to submit. I didn't play those games. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to finish this off at 4,300 characters. I'm 200 off. That's cool. That's okay. Hit submit. I ain't got time. So please keep that in mind. So as a whole, that's just my gems, tips, tricks, advice, insight that I follow. Well, I wanted to relate to you all, and this is my process that I followed. And hey, it helped me get inside of, again, DCG, Tufts, Arizona, and I was waitlisted. And even though I was waitlisted at Florida, it at least got me looked at. It did get me looked at and granted an interview. So hey, I'll take that. But as a whole, thank you for watching. I hope you are doing well, and be on the lookout for another video in regards to my strategy with applying to dental school. Take care. Peace and love to wherever you're at in the world. Cheers.